Hey, Jeff, thanks for taking the time to talk to my students and potentially the internet. As a Ranken graduate from 2019, my first question, if you don't mind, just introducing yourself to my class.
My name is Jeff Gibson. I graduated Rankin May of 2019. I've since joined Daugherty. I'm coming up on my 5 year tenure there. I'm a software engineer, level two, and I also work as a consultant. So right now I'm stationed at Express Scripts, call it Cigna or Evernorth, is all under the same umbrella. And currently, a little bit of my day to day, I do a little bit of everything. I've since been working in the AWS space, but a lot of what I've been handling is Azure DevOps and the CI/CD pipeline structure. So right now, my team, we've been currently been trying to take applications to the cloud, and that means all of our new suite of applications are being hosted at EKS, being built through Terraform, going out to CloudFront, different things like that. And so, yeah.
So let me break some of that down. So this is my students who are second year students, so a lot of this language, but also potential students might be watching this, right? So you work as a
Right.
DevOps engineer. Can you explain that a little more?
Yeah. So, what a DevOps engineer role is to work through the CI and CD structure, which is continuous integration and continuous delivery. Uh, the simplest way to say it is the deployment of code and where that code is hosted. So I work a lot in pipelines. You'll see YAML being a big thing within that. So really, the same way that you would build your code on a local machine, we want to build that through, say, a CI/CD structure, something like Jenkins or Azure DevOps, or even like Google, their whole cloud platform. And we will build that, and then we will send it off to be hosted on a server somewhere. It might be an IaaS server, it might be AWS, like I just mentioned. Um, and we just manage those resources to get it to the customer or anything internally.
So
So
to
that's pretty
highlight what
much
you
it.
said, and I'm just going to spit it back to you. Like if I had to, in one sentence, like you're talking about the deployment of the code, not just writing the code, but also
Right.
getting that code live in production. And you work on
Exactly.
both Microsoft Azure and Google AWS, right?
Not Google, but AWS and
Amazon,
Azure.
Amazon, Amazon. Do you do Google Cloud as well? Do you do G Cloud?
I've looked into it, but it's not been a part of, you know, I know it's still kind of young.
Yeah.
AWS is still the hot topic right
Yep,
now.
yep, yep.
So,
Well, just to
yeah.
give you an idea, my class literally yesterday, we're about a month into the curriculum, and we just
Mhm.
deployed to Azure yesterday. And as part of that
Nice.
deployment process in Visual Studio, there's that tab that says CI/CD. And so
Yeah,
that's kind of where we're headed, to say, okay,
yeah,
anytime you push to GitHub, go ahead and redeploy kind of thing.
right.
Um, well, very cool, man. And so what are the different companies you've worked for within Daugherty? Have you had different contracts with different companies around St. Louis?
Yeah, that's what I actually love Jordy for, because I've had the opportunity to work for some of the biggest companies in St. Louis, in the greater St. Louis area, as well as around. I spent about a year at Anheuser-Busch. I was at Bayer for a time. I also spent time at Edward Jones. And now my latest is Cigna Express Scripts. So
Wow, that's cool. That's quite the resume
yeah,
in
I'm coming
five
up on
years.
3 years. I'm coming up on 3 years at Cigna. So
Wow, that's cool, man.
yeah,
Yeah, in the St. Louis area, like you said, that's all the Giants. That's a lot of the Giants, anyways.
yeah, yeah.
That's cool. And so, what's it been like out there as far as like, okay, you went to school. So, walk me through this. Did you go to school at Ranken right after high school?
I did. I did. I
Okay.
attended the spring semester at Rankin. So I graduated. I kind of spent some time out, and then I came through January 2018. And I was told like, hey, to catch up, you gotta do summer school. I said no problem at all. So I wanted to, get in and get out as soon as possible, to begin to make my mark. So,
And so when you graduated, you said you were about 18 when you started, so you're probably 20,
yeah,
21
I'm not. Yeah, yeah. I graduated from Ranken when I was 20.
when you were
I
20.
know that, but I know that because Daugherty, they used to have drinking parties, and I couldn't participate. So,
And so now you're 5 years out, you're still a young pup, man. You're about 25 and you got all this development experience under your belt. Man,
yeah,
you got a bright future ahead. To
yeah,
be in your shoes, man, that is very cool. Well, congratulations
yeah.
on your success. That's a good place to be. I'm happy
Thank
for you.
you, thank you.
And so you really had one employer. Although you've had one employer, you've worked at different companies within that employer. So why did you choose software development?
Um, there were many different factors that contributed to that. As a young kid, I mean, you don't always hear, but what stood out to me, I always loved games. And
You still play games, yeah?
when, yeah, 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 I still play games,
What's your
but
game of choice today, 2024?
I like Apex a lot.
Okay. I
Um,
played that for the first time the other day with my sister. She sat me down and made me pick up a.
yeah,
It was fun. I could see the
yeah,
appeal there. That was a lot of fun.
yeah. But yeah, Apex, and I like the RPGs and stuff. But that's really what got me into it, man. Is that I always saw interest in the production of games, and so I just kind of took a liking to it, and it's evolved over time. I did robotics in high school as well, and I also got to compete in that space, and it just pushed me further and further towards actually doing something in IT.
Yeah.
And so when the opportunity presented itself at Rankin, I took it immediately. I mean, I could have went to UMSU, I could have went to any of these 4-year universities. But when you look at the behind the scenes of Rankin, it's 2 years. It's straight all hands on work, and talking to you students, there's a deeper appreciation for some of the rigorous stuff that we went through at Rankin, like hands-on tests every week. I don't know if you guys still do that, but I hope you do. But hands-on tests every week. Uh, always, constantly learning something new, always applying and putting yourself in a situation. I think is necessary, especially for a field as evolving as IT, because you'll find yourself out here. Um, you'll go to different companies. I know at Anheuser-Busch, you would think, oh, they're latest and greatest. They're not. They still host a lot of their applications on legacy servers, and they still have Visual Basic code running like some big pharmacy process. So you'll be surprised, but then you'll go to a place like Bayer where they do everything new. I mean, after each new project, they have a team that's spending time dedicated to researching. Well, is this new version of React, would that be good for our next, production level application? So they're constantly evolving in that space. But I wouldn't say, you know, verse yourself on the new technologies as well as some of the older ones. You don't have to spend too much time on the older ones, but gain a understanding for them. Why is Cobalt still used? You'll probably see some of that around. So yeah.
Well, to take it back to why you got into the industry, kind of your background in gaming and you gamed into some robotics. That is probably 90% of our students, and so I think that really applies to a lot of people and talks to a lot of people. So that's kind of cool to see that transition into a really successful story, right? So that's really cool. So 5 years, experience writing software. Do you have any software projects that stand out of like, man, that is cool. I got a lot of people using this, or like, what is any like cool software or like high usage software that you've worked on?
Okay. So two cool ones. One was at Bayer. I can't say too much. You are putting this up somewhere. I don't want to say too much, but I worked on a project called outcome-based pricing. And if you don't know anything about Bayer, they do a little bit of everything. They're kind of like in the medical, as well as like agriculture space. And so a part of their agriculture, they wanted to essentially help farmers save while also making themselves money. And so based off like a farmer, they'll go and buy seeds, or they'll buy like manure, or different things to help their crop flourish. And based off the end result of their crop, that's the fee that they'll pay to Bayer, right? So the outcome based pricing of how much is your yield, and they'll go based off of that. And what Bayer also does is that they engineer seeds, genetically modify all that stuff, and they basically come out of their research and they say, with this seed we can get 500 grains, and they guarantee that if it doesn't hit that mark, then the farmer comes out, on a little bit less, but they do have to follow like their guidelines for that.
I've never
So
heard of that before, and as someone who
yeah,
farms in his backyard, I understand you got to buy the seed. You pay the price on the sticker, but that Bayer does it a little bit different. It's like, no, you're paying based on the outcome of the crop.
yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah.
cool. That is cool.
But yeah, that was a very interesting project.
What
Um,
else?
I also right now at Cigna, this was just a project that I was on a year ago. It's called Induction. I won't say too much about this because I'm currently here. But basically, Cigna, they fill drugs. They get them from the pharmacy to patients, or from the Cigna pharmacy to patients. And so they have, different fillers. And so I had the opportunity to apply some code to actual, real machinery, and, trade the handshakes back and forth. Like, hey, is the bottle filled? Is it the right drug in there? Is it moving along the line fine? So that was a cool one. It's been sold for a while, but it's gonna come back up after we do all of our production deployments to AWS. So it's not going for good, but we just finished our MVP one phase. We were transitioning to MVP two before, priority shift all the time out here. And so we'll be revisiting it soon enough. So
Nice, nice.
yeah.
Those are definitely two cool projects. So, next question is, what's a day in your life like? I mean, what's your working life like?
Uh, I mean, pretty much. I do a lot of research. I feel like I'm a I'm an expert in Google now. I stay on the Google forums, Stack Overflow. My goodness, if we did not have those, we would be severely shocked. So, a lot of my time is spent doing research. I am writing Terraform code. If you guys aren't familiar with Terraform, it's really just a platform, a CLI, SDK that you can use to deploy and build AWS resources. And so, really been working on that a lot, and really that's where I like to be at, is within the code.
Yeah.
So,
What time do you
I,
clock in every day?
it varies.
Okay.
So, good thing about here is that we have flex time, so you can get on as early as 6 in the morning. But core hours matter. So 9 to 3. That's not exactly 8 hours, but you have to be on between 9 to 3.
9 to 3.
So you can
Okay.
get on as early as 6:30. Just work to 3, and then you good.
Yeah.
Some people get off even earlier than that.
Yeah.
So you know.
You working from home 5 days a week? Are you going to the office some days?
Uh, there's been a push to transition back into the office recently.
Yep.
And so my our minimum is 3 days a week, but I only do two. And I do 3 days at home. But I know other companies like Mastercard, they're doing 4 or 5 days a week. Uh, and a lot of other companies are starting to
Yeah, of course,
go.
that's a societal thing. In 2024, it's we're being reeled back in one crank at a time. So it's a
Right.
lot more than everyone's going back into the office. So you got some flex hours. Another important question. I'm pretty sure you got a Cardinals T-shirt on there.
Yeah.
You got a favorite Cardinals player?
uh, Yadier Molina.
Okay,
Uh,
good answer.
yeah,
Crowd favorite,
yeah,
classic. I think he might be a coach
a
this year.
legend.
He might be coming back as a
Yeah.
coach, I think. So that's cool. Well, that's St. Louis native. Good for you, man. That's cool. What advice my students are getting ready to graduate and they're going to be hungry for a job. They're going to have to work hard to get that first job. What advice would you give them to land that first job?
Start building your own projects.
Okay.
That is a very big thing. Start building out your portfolio.
Wait a minute. So I give them projects as part of school, and you're saying that's not enough?
That's not enough. You need to show commitment and time outside of school to really, show your dedication to the craft. I know when I first joined Daugherty, really a big part of what helped me is that I did robotics for 2 years, and that showed a dedication outside of, what you're supposed to do. I mean, you're going to school, but it's still what you're supposed to do. I don't want to see homework. What are you doing on your own time to diversify yourself in your portfolio? I would really say don't spend a lot of time on these outside projects. Time box yourself. Do it the same way you would a hands-on test or homework. Set a goal, meet this criteria. Once you hit that, close out the project, and now you have one in your portfolio. And if I had to say, I don't know what you guys are learning at Ranken currently, but I would definitely say a big thing out here is Java. So get familiar with Spring Boot, the whole API server. Also React Native, which helps you build mobile and web applications. Also Terraform, believe it or not, because people love AWS out here, and they'll always put you in a position to where you can see that. So whatever you take a general interest in, I also C# as well. .NET still a huge thing out here, of course. So just take some time. Do different things. Maybe work on the C# .NET project, then switch to React. Maybe try to deploy those same applications using some Terraform code to like your own dev instance of AWS. And they're pretty cheap on that side too. And you don't have to keep it up. Just show that you have that versatility and that capability to do it. That will really help you a lot.
Yeah. And so, the reason it's like, to me, it's like check boxes, getting a degree in a lot of cases, and a lot of companies want to see that, but in a lot of cases they want to see more as well. And so whether your diploma's from Ranken or any university or any, wherever you can get your education, they want to see what you can build, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So essentially building a portfolio. Now, your portfolio can have school projects and or side projects. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so
right.
Yeah. All right.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily stop when you're out here. I mean, you can have the experience like me. I'm coming up on my 5 years experience, but if I decide to go somewhere else, they're still going to ask for a code review, or they're still going to ask for my opinions on some particular software. Yeah. So always keep brushing up on those soft skills as well as those hard skills too.
Did you have to answer coding challenges during the interview process?
Yeah. It was 3 phases to it. So it was definitely a code technical interview, and then there was a code review afterwards. So I had 2 people in the room, and on my coding test, they asked me, why did you do it like this? Could you have done it differently? If you would have done it differently, how would you have done it? So interview like that, and then a personable interview. How are you as a person? Believe it or not, just be bold-faced with you guys. There are some assholes out here, just plain as day. There are. So it's very important, at least to Daugherty, to know if you're a good personality or not. Are you a good person to be around? So yeah.
Good answers. We got a question out here. Yes, sir.
What kind of technical questions were there?
What were your technical questions like? What were they? Do you remember?
Yeah. So we had like 15 or so different coding questions. Some were as simple as loops, like the fizz buzz was one of them, and then some of them were a little bit more complex. So searching for something within a multi-dimensional array. And the interview, when I got to that, they're just like, um, how do you create an object? Can you create an object differently? Uh, how would you call a prop on an object? Uh, just different things that you already know about your code. They're not really trying to trip you up in a way. They just want to see, do you have versatility. So if you do something one way, well, we know with code it's like 10, 20 different ways to do the same thing. So if you would have did it differently, or if you could do it differently, what would you have done? So those are a lot of my questions.
So, so it was mainly just your knowledge on maybe the basics. You would
So
say,
your follow up is just it seems like a lot of questions around the basics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You you'll also get some complex ones too. Um, yeah, you'll get some harder ones too, but
Yeah.
they didn't really try to drill it too much.
Do you stay in touch with some of your old classmates?
Uh, yeah, every now and then. I know Todd. He's still at Doherty. I know Ben. He's killing things at Doherty too. I think he's still at Bayer. Um, and then outside of that, sometimes I may talk to like Thaddeus every now and then through Discord.
Yeah.
But outside of that, not anybody else.
Yeah, but you'll stay in contact with a few, and that's probably normal. Just a couple
Yeah.
closer ones. Very cool. Any other questions from the class? I think you covered a lot of bases there, Jeff, man. So I really appreciate your time. Yeah, we got a question.
Did he ever say how he landed his job?
Did you say how you landed your job? Like, did you go to the
Say it
job?
again?
Was it? Did you? How did you apply? How'd you hear about Doherty? How'd you land the job?
So a couple different things. The Ranken job fair, Doherty always had a booth there. And I always talked to the recruiter. I always stopped at their station first. I guess the recruiter, she just, took a liking to me. And we stayed in touch through LinkedIn. That's another big thing. If you keep your LinkedIn updated as much as possible. I mean, not every little thing you do, but things that are major, update it frequently. Because jobs, when I tell you guys, no exaggeration, I can get like 40 different messages within a single month, and that's been every month since like I've been at Doherty and gaining the experience that I have. Like I have a lot of places hit me up. So I mean, outside of that, back to address your question. So I just really kept in contact with the recruiters of Doherty. I also had a friend within Doherty who was willing to stick their neck out and put a good word in for me. But I feel like it was by my second year at Ranken, I feel like it was pretty much set in stone. I was going to Ranken. I just had that feeling personally. So yeah.
So it sounds like a combination of Rankin job fair and word of mouth helped you get that job.
Yep.
Cool. Any other questions for Jeff? Again, just want to, thank you for your time. I got one more hand that just popped up.
was there a period of training like to get you like if this was like a program that was very touched on?
Yeah.
Was there paid for training to help you out?
Yeah, how do you talk about like your training process? If you got to learn a language, is it on the job training, or what's the training process like when something new's thrown at you?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So once you get out into the space, you'll start hearing a lot more about agile, Kanban, and Scrum. So a lot of times, as a junior, you'll get a bit more grace when it comes to taking time to train and really, verse yourself, at least on the basics of a new tech stack or technology. But we may dedicate, sprint hours to, doing research. We call it spike tickets, but it might be a spike to, like, hey, we're just touching React. Let me dedicate some spike time to, actually, getting the ins and outs of that.
Which is on the job training, yeah? It's training while you're getting paid for it.
Exactly. And DU is also a pretty big thing. I went through DU. They still do DU. So that was like a 6-week progress. where we built some applications. We got to learn some new tech stacks before they actually sent us out. So that was helpful for me because honestly, the transition from school to real world is kind of a jarring one. So the Daugherty at least accommodates that, and they help you. They help prepare you before just throwing you out there, which I think is good. But if you're a professional, we don't care. We we pay for you. Get out there. Um,
Cool.
but yeah. Also, what's another one? Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
So yeah.
So last question I always ask is, you've been out there 5 years. You chose this industry. You went to school for this industry. Do you think you'll be doing this for the rest of your life? You think you'll retire kind of as a software developer, or do you see a transition down the road?
100%. I mean, the only transition that I've ever thought about was getting on the physical side. So mechanical engineering. And I know they do a whole host of things, like even at Cigna, the mechanical engineers that work on the big pharmacy processes, they still write code to some degree because they have to write code for their machines for us to interact with it. So, I've thought about that. But as far as me, man, my recruiter, when I first joined Daugherty, she thought I would be the one to, maybe transition into like a team lead role where I'm doing like Scrum stuff and a little BA. No, I want to be in the code. It frustrates me a lot. I bang my head up against the wall, but it's nothing like figuring out a solution. I think that's the biggest dopamine hit, at least to me. So yeah, I'll be doing this as long as I can.
Well, Jeff, I'm just going to say, man, I remember when you walked in the doors of Ranken, pretty much you seemed like a young pup, a young kid. And just from my point of view, I'm just giving you a compliment, and honest to God, it is so cool to see your transition into a man with a good career, your wife and a family. It just makes me happy, man. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations. And
I still got that book from you too, man. I still got that book.
the Dave Ramsey book.
I read the message that you put in from time to time, man. It really warms me up. So I really appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll be in touch. I'll stay in touch. Congratulations. Thanks for taking the time.
All right.
Hey, I'm going to stop the recording here. Hang tight.